Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drains. Today we're down here in Tampa, Florida, and we're working on a waterproofing issue, the foundation of the house. And you can see it's just like anything up north, only these are a little bit more shallow. I think that there's more problems here in Florida than there are, in the Midwest or in the north or even out west. And the reason being is that you can see the slab right here. Let's take a look. Here is the footer, and here is the foundation wall, and you see the root system that's trying to get through. It's not so bad right here, but the floor level's up here, so we're well below the floor. But what happens is that groundwater rises up, and it just sits here on top of the footer, and then it finds a way through the cracks of the mortar. And of course I'll show you some root systems that have come through here, just giant ones that have come through, and that water goes underneath of the slab in the house. That causes major problems inside. Turn it upside down so we can get it. So we've got a reading on this floor of right about 10% moisture, and Mary Lou's been going around the floor and she'll move it again. You can just see it's like all kinds of readings how much moisture is actually in that concrete. And over here we're less than 5%. And over here was their original problem, I think, was in this area by the front door. And you can see 18, 19%, right at 19%. So interesting how much water can accumulate under your floor. So during the last hurricane, it rained for about a week before the hurricane came. And the groundwater rose way high. And of course, the water from the hurricane just really put it over the top. And what happened was that water from that footer outside, remember, sat there, and then it started to flow inside the house underneath of this concrete floor. All the hardwood floors buckled, and water was actually coming through the concrete. Homeowners have tore out everything to correct, they have to fix the problem inside, but they need to fix that problem outside, and that's why they've called us. So basically we're going to go back outside, and we're going to seal that foundation wall with liquid rubber that won't allow the water to come through. We're going to put the footer tile, that's the French drain some people say, gravel perforated pipe. It's going to run all the way around. They need 2 sump pumps, lift this water up and out from this trench. Let's go back outside. So you can see how quickly the trench gets dug here. Nice. We'll get that cleaned off. A lot of roots down here. It really makes it difficult to get your shovel down in the ground. But once you do, it'll come right out. So again, remember what the problem is, that water lays on top of this footer. And you can see the roots that come through the wall. These are very aggressive tree roots. They've come right through that mortar between the block and the foundation. And it's that size root inside underneath of that slab. There's lots of these that have come through. There's smaller ones that have come through as well. And we're going to have to clean all this off, cut those off. The liquid rubber will seal this nicely. And it'll last, 30 years. But it won't allow that water to come through. Next we have to address the problem of water laying on top of this footer. So that's where your French drain comes in, the gravel perforated pipe. Footers run level. It's okay, it's not a big deal. One of the problems on this footer pour, you can see how high it is on this side versus this side. They created a channel here. So we definitely have to have perforated pipe and gravel that runs through here and comes over. It'll drop down into the sump pit. Through these holes, we'll cut these nipples off, go down a little bit deeper. The sump pump's going to lift it up and send it out to the street. That'll keep this foundation dry. So here's another interesting problem that you find. You can see this root. This is the main water supply. Here's the shutoff. Has grown right around that thing. I've taken some time to cut off all the ends, and now I'm going to pry that baby out of there, I hope. See if it'll come out. Got to get more of the root out. Another water line right here. There we go. But yeah, water's been coming in right here. See, it's coming from PVC to copper, or that might be galvanized. It's copper coming into the house. And you can see that root. You see where the water line, the root grew right around that water line. Roots are nasty things. If you plant things too close to your house, this is what happens. So here's another great example of how water enters the foundation, the wall, and you can see here's the footer, here's the first course of block. You can see the seam right here, the mortar. Water just goes right underneath, as well as little tiny roots. It just penetrates and goes through. Basement wall, crawl space wall, monolithic slab, makes no difference. Water gets underneath of there, and pressure it just comes right up into the floor, and pretty soon your hardwood floors are buckling.
So after trenching out your footer, use a blower to help remove the loose dirt, sand, and debris. This is an important step because the next step is you're going to wash this off with your hose, and you've got to get as much dirt, debris off of that footer and wall as possible. Next, we'll set up the sump pit and pump, because as we wash the wall, we need a place for that water to go and just temporarily pump it out.
Okay, let's go ahead and set up our pump. Remember, this is a Zoller M53, a third of the horsepower, and it's a single pull float. And so as water rises in that pit, this float comes up, kicks on, you can hear it clicking. When it's up at the top, water comes out, starts to spin, pumps it up, lifts it out. Real simple to set up. We're going to put in a male 1.5 inch threaded adapter. It just screws right into this port. Don't cross thread it. Put it in there as tight as you can with your hand. Perfect. And we're not even going to glue it, because all we're going to do is use it temporarily as we wash off that footer. You need a piece of 1.5 inch pipe. Stick that down in tight, and a 90 at the top. And then once it goes in the pit, we'll use this just to pump it out into the yard. Next, we're going to set up the sump basin, the sump pit. The sump pit has 2 nipples on each side. Usually these go in a crawl space or a basement. On the outside is the same kind of thing, but we're just going to cut one of them off, and then we're actually going to drill a hole for the other one so it fits in the hole that I dug. Good hacksaw cuts it right off, and it's nice if you have a 4-inch hole saw. That's the exact size of this hole, because we're going to drill a hole in the other side in just a second. Again, you've seen me set up sump basins all the time. This sets up exactly the same way. There will be one difference, and I'll show you that in a second. We need to go ahead and perforate our pit. Drill holes in the bottom. And then we want to go ahead and perforate. Remember that the float kicks on somewhere right in here. So what we want to do is perforate it a little bit higher up. Let that hold some water. This is just so it doesn't freeze. Even though we're in Tampa, it does freeze here. Because this is a sandy loam soil, you need a soil separator, fabric, to line the outside of the pit. Basically, all we're doing is just securing it with duct tape, because it's just enough to get it down into the ground. So we're just going to line up our holes with the trench, and we should be, yep, real good. Real good. You can see the outlet hole, which is below the footer, because our pipe's going to drop in, and then over here the hole I drilled is also below the footer, so that water can drop into the pit. Go ahead and straighten up your fabric a little bit. You know, it moves around. I just put a couple of pieces of tape on there. The sand actually holds it in place, but we're actually going to put some gravel around the outside when we're all done. So as you hose it off, most important is the seam. You can see where I'm spraying. Try to get that really clean. You can see there's still a few roots there. We got to pull them out, but try to get that seam clean. And of course, any of the block that you see exposed. Now you can see the water maybe starting to come into the pit. Pretty soon it'll lift that float up and kick it on. That's right where the float is going to kick on. Once that float rises up, you'll hear it kick on and it'll just pump it right out of there within a matter of seconds. Okay, I've got the water running, just to let it run, and what it's doing is it's coming along the footer and it's going to drop into the pit, and pump will kick on in just a few minutes. It really is a slow process. However, when groundwater rises up, this water becomes pretty severe, and it becomes almost like putting the hose directly into the pit. Water will come in here so fast that you need something to get it up and out of there. That's why we recommend using that Zoller M53. It's a great pump, really strong pump. So water's flowing, and you can see the problem I was talking about here. See how the water stays on the footer? So this becomes a two-part process. First part is to seal the wall. So I got to come back and get these roots off of here. Seal the wall with liquid rubber, and then we're going to put gravel perforated pipe all along here so it has a place to drain into the sump pit. So it's almost ready to kick on. So the float just kicked on. You can see how fast that water drains out of that pit. And I can't even get out here quick enough to show you, but you can see the discharge, the water out here in the yard. It works really good. And again, water flows along the gravel perforated pipe, which lays right there on top of that footer. And as it enters that system, it comes over here to the sump pit, sump basin, sump pump lifts it up and takes it out. So a lot of people ask me what product to use on that crawl space or basement wall or foundation wall like this. And what I suggest is Blackjack rubber coat number 57. And this is a premium rubberized fibered coating. And you'll notice once we open it up, you'll see it's got a lot of liquid up here at the top. That's fine. You can just stick this big mop. Try to get one of these big mop kind of brushes because it's really thick stuff. Paintbrush works, but these mops work a lot better. And stick it down into the actual rubberized portion of it, the fibered coating. Get a good goopy gop on there, and then you start. You start down at the bottom at the seam where the block meets the foundation. This product right here is about 50 bucks for 5 gallons, and you just have to figure out how far you want to go. We usually put 2 coats on, so we usually go through 2 or 3 of these on a typical job. 1 coat does work, but 2 coats is even better. So when you start, go ahead and find yourself a stick or a piece of old pipe, and you got to try to stir it up just a little bit because it is really thick. It's rubberized fiber coating, and it's got a lot of liquid in it, just like any other paint. You can always go to the shaker, but we just stir it up. So try to get as much goopy gop on there as you can. Looking better. Yeah, there's some. We want to put that right down in that seam. We just paint across it. When you use the excess liquid, you want to come up the wall. This has a seam of mortar, of stucco. We need to get underneath of that as well. We got to be real careful we don't get it on the siding. But yeah, this stuff works really good. So we went ahead and sealed a good portion of this foundation wall. This little hole right here, we're going to have to put some Portland cement, some stucco back up over top of that and seal that again. This is drying right now, and we'll put another coat on there, but wow, this thing really sealed up nice, and they shouldn't get any water through there whether we did footer tile into the sump pit or not, but looking really, really good. Here on the other side, the same thing. What we did was we brought the sealant right up to the siding, to the bottom of the siding, and sealed right along that footer. That's the most important spot down there, right along that, where that block meets the footer. And that's got an excessive amount of liquid rubber on it, because we want that to be super strong. And we stopped right here by the pit. But yeah, it's looking really, really good. So that's where we're at today, and we've got a few more days here. This is the slowest part of the job when you're sealing that foundation. Very slow. Take your time, really do a nice job with that liquid rubber, because that is a permanent seal against that side of the foundation. And so we put our first coat on, we'll put another coat on it, and you can see it down the bottom. It just looks like rubber already. It's already hardening, and it will be just super strong. Water cannot penetrate through that. And so that allows you to put your gravel perforated pipe right there on the footer or beside, whichever, and that water won't penetrate. It'll just go into the system, be carried over to these sump pumps, and the pump's going to lift it up. We're going to put it in a 6-inch pipe and hook up the downspouts and send it all the way out there to the sidewalk. So again, if you're going to do it yourself, take your time, and I promise you can do this. This is something that's not that hard to do. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day. Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drains, down here in Tampa, Florida. We're waterproofing the foundation, exterior waterproofing along a home here. What we've done so far, of course, we've already sealed the wall with liquid rubber. That's where you see that black tarry substance. Now we're getting ready to put our gravel perforated pipe. That is the footer tile. We call that a footer tile. And because we're in a sandy soil, we've got to surround that with geofabric, and then we'll put gravel around that as well. So we're getting there. We've got our sump pump installed, or our pit installed, and the inlet lines for the footer will come into the footer pipe, will come into the pump, the pit, lift it up and send it out. Okay, so we're coming around the back corner back here, and you can see we've got lots of gravel on top of our pipe, and it's actually encased inside the geofabric. And then we're going to fold that over. What we've done is we've used a piece of wood to help contain our gravel, because it really gets spread out. And now we're going to backfill this section, finish covering, pulling the geofabric over the gravel, because we don't want that sand to go down into the gravel. And then we'll just continue the same process all the way around to the garage door. So once you get some backfill in there, then you can lift up the wood, because that's been containing your gravel. Just pull it out of the way, and now we can backfill completely up to the foundation, to the wall itself. Remember that we sealed this wall with liquid rubber all the way down and around, so that no water can penetrate that area at all. You can see we've got our gravel perforated pipe, and it's wrapped in geofabric because of the sand. And we went all the way around. Now we're just getting ready to backfill. Just kind of walking around so you can see the area. And it goes all the way up there to the front where the sump pump is. The downspouts are going to be separate. That's why you see them just dangling there in the air. There'll be a separate line that goes out to the front. Okay, we're setting up a Zoller M53, and we've already put in our male 1.5-inch adapter. It's threaded, it just screws into the port. Next, we're going to put on a riser and a check valve. And the riser just brings this up above this bar, which protects the float. We're going to glue this down tight. Good amount of glue. Remember, this is PVC cement, and it sets up extremely fast. Just push it and hold it a couple seconds, and we're done with that. Next, we take our handy dandy drill with our 5/16" bit. We go ahead and tighten all this up. That one's good. These are no hub adapters, and it has stainless steel clamps that's holding together the check valve. Remember that we want the check valve has an arrow that shows you the direction of the water flow. Water only flows one direction. I've already cut all of the pieces here to put this into the pit, so I'm going to tighten this all up. But you would do the same thing. You make your measurements, cut them off, dry fit everything before you set this into the pit. So let's set it over in the pit, and we'll finish plumbing this right up out of the pit, tie it into the 6-inch pipe. So we'll set our pump down into the pit. It goes right onto the bottom. And you can see our inlet lines from the footer tiles, 2 pipes. Remember that footer tile is gravel perforated pipe. It runs around the side of the house right at the footer level. And you can see our black tarry substance up on the wall. That's liquid rubber. And that is, keeping that sealed and dry. The 6-inch pipe is actually picking up this downspout. We haven't hooked that up yet, but it's hooking up the downspout. It's going all the way out to the curb, to the sidewalk, and we're hooking up another downspout, 2 downspouts here in the front, and they'll tie into the 6-inch as well. So here we are over here at the sump pit. We've already got everything secured. Now we're going to plumb through a hole that I already dug, drilled a 2-inch hole, and connect that. It'll go right down into the 6-inch. So you can see how it comes in. I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece up. Just a good amount of glue on there. Slide it through and secure it. Hold it in place. Now we're ready to make our final connection inside with the final 90. So just move your pump around to the right spot. I'm going to go ahead and set up my fitting, glue it up. Good amount of glue on both pieces. Now we're ready to go ahead and set our fitting in place. And it's really just that simple. Hold it in place for a second and it's all together. So you can see how it sets up. We've got our check valve. Arrow is pointing upwards. It's all ready to go. We're right underneath of the plug for the outlet. This is a GFI, an outdoor outlet. We'll put that on there, put the lid on here, and we're ready to continue covering and plumbing the rest of the downspouts, and we're all done. So with the lid on, you can see this lid is set at grade. Yeah, there's dirt piles around it, but we'll break that down. But this is at grade, ties into the 6-inch. The 6-inch runs all the way out to a discharge at the sidewalk. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.
Hey, Chuck here again. Just a couple quick reminders. We set up a live help via Skype to give you some video consultation on any of your problems. We can answer any question and help you with cost, materials, all types of things. Please use the website if you're interested in that. And the other thing is that we are now nationwide. We can definitely come to your site, consult, and or we can install. If you're interested in that, remember that we're based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we're based in Orlando, Florida. So if you're in those areas, of course we can get straight out to you, but we are also available to come out to California, to Texas, into Oregon, Washington. Just let us know. If you cannot find somebody in your area that you trust, please give us a call and we'll be happy to talk with you.